Hello, everybody, and welcome to Co-Creation Station, the podcast where we talk about the law of attraction, the art of allowing, spiritual magic, the mind-body-spirit connection, and how to best enjoy this mystical, miraculous, mysterious, crazy, sometimes confounding, but always incredible journey we call life. My name is Collin. I'm located in beautiful, sunny North Hollywood, California.
My name is Stephanie Orlina. I am a transformational life coach and I help people shift away from negative thinking. And I'm in San Diego, California.
We want to thank you so much for listening or watching or both, whatever you're doing today. We do want to let you know we often mention the names Abraham Hicks, and Esther Hicks on this podcast. If you're not familiar with those names, Esther is a speaker and author who channels Abraham. Abraham is described as a group of entities from beyond our physical world who share their wisdom by speaking through Esther at workshops and speaking opportunities around the world. You can find more out about them by searching on your web browser. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can search for them out here on YouTube. There's a ton of stuff there. You can also check out their website, abraham-hicks.com. Each week, we start our discussion here on the podcast from a different jumping off point. And this week, I'm going to give us the jumping off point, and it is an Esther Hicks Abraham thing. I saw this quote on somebody had created a little video on Instagram Reels, and I typed it out here. It's pretty short, but it just struck me. It's one of those things where like I'm always inspired by what Abraham shares, but sometimes I'll see something like this or hear something like this, it'll just hit me like, oh my god, that's so profound. Like I have to talk about that. So this is Abraham talking to her audience at one of her workshops. Um, so when people say, "What are you doing?" You say, "Things that please me," and they say, "Towards what end?" And you say, "Pleasure." And they say, "But really, what are you working on?" And you say, "Having a good time." And they say, "But what do you hope to accomplish?" And you say, "Living happily ever after." And they say, "But what do you want to leave as your legacy?" And you say, "I was a happy one." And they say, "But what is the mark that you want to leave?" You say, "Life is joyous." And they say, "But what is the value that you see that you are contributing to this time-space reality?" And you say, "I'm joyful." And they say, "But really, what do you hope to accomplish?" And you say, "Being happy." It's hard for people to wrap their thoughts around that, and yet that's what all of existence is about, you see.
Ooh, okay, drop the mic. Boom. Did
and
anyone else get chills as Colin was reading that? I did multiple times.
and the thing that I think the reason that hit me so hard and well is because like I for such a long time I was so focused on like goals and like knowing what my goals are, focusing on them. And I read all these like self-help books about like, how to accomplish your goals and like how to create a plan, a time plan for your goals and all that stuff. And I'm not saying that stuff can't be helpful, but like I think sometimes I get caught up in this thing of like that the goal is accomplishing the goal, and it's not. The goal that I really want to do is be happy in this lifetime. I
Mm.
feel like my life philosophy is pretty simple at this point. It's like the simplest version of it really is live, love, and laugh, as cliche as that is. But it's like have fun, enjoy the ride, love other people, be of service when you have opportunities. Like that's pretty much it. And it doesn't mean that there aren't things that I want to accomplish, but it's like I'm now aware when I'm in my right mind that the goal is not like, oh, I want to accomplish this goal so I can put, a placard on the wall that says I did this thing. It's like I want to do things that make me happy, make other people happy, and serve the world. So, but a lot of times I feel like we do, at least in America, where I've lived my whole life, um, we have this like we put pressure on each other. Like when especially when we're getting to know each other, which is the weirdest time to put pressure on someone. You're just meeting them, but like I think it's a pretty common experience for a lot of people in America. Like you go to a party and you meet someone for the first time, and the first thing that we as Americans tend to get into is like, what do you do for work? And that, as if that's sort of like the most important thing about anybody, and like sums them up, which isn't really true.
What would be a better
uh,
question? What do you like to do
Something
for
like,
fun?
what do you do for fun? What makes you happy? um,
Mhm. What's
I
lighting
was
you
trying
up
to
right
think of
now?
that time that we had. What's the thing you're most proud of?
But that's kind of
That
in that
stage you're in.
territory too.
Yeah.
So I
Well, I
think
mean, But part of it is like if someone's in just a total goals mentality, like they're gonna give that kind of an answer no matter how you ask. Because the
And
other thing
that's
is,
okay. That's
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
But
that's fine.
having like kind of like, oh, I just thought of it. Tell me something good.
Yeah,
That would
yeah,
be
exactly.
one.
That's why that question is just brilliant.
Yeah.
Because
Because
most
it's always
people,
different.
and the thing is, that could be a goal. That could be somebody saying like, "Oh, I accomplished a goal." But again, I would guess most of the time they're going to talk about how accomplishing that goal makes them feel good. They're not going to
Mm,
talk about the thing. They're going to talk about
right.
like, "Oh, I've been working
Yeah.
on this thing at
Yeah.
my job, and
Right.
it was really hard, and we pulled it off. My team was
Yeah.
really excited, and I was really proud of them." And again, you're talking about the feelings, not necessarily
And
just
that feels totally different
yeah,
than what you were saying of like, what do you do for work? Oh, I'm a,
yeah,
it's yeah, the energy is different for
yeah.
sure.
I'm amazed at how often, if when I ask that question of people, um, in certain parts of the United States, especially, people will say like they will literally try to dismiss it. Like they acknowledge its importance, but then they dismiss their job. Like they're like, "Oh, I work for this company that processes data, whatever. It's super boring. Don't worry about remembering what I do." And I'm like, so A, this is supposedly the most important thing about you, and B, like you hate it and you don't want to
Dismiss
talk about
it.
it. Yeah. And so that's what I was thinking, like, again, if you're just obsessed with goals and that's your whole reference, you're going to answer that way anyway. But asking things like, what really sets you on fire? What are you excited
Yeah.
about? What's something that
Yeah.
happened this week that made you really happy?
I
You know?
texted that to my daughter a couple of weeks ago. I was like, what's bringing you a lot of joy lately?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it was cool because I didn't expect her to respond this way. She said, "Oh, I'm reading, da
Mm,
da da," and she said
yeah.
some book, and
Yeah.
yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Could you read some of that again? Because
Yeah.
I'd love to like kind of let's pick it apart and talk about that because it was so juicy and
Yeah.
different because most of us don't live from that place. But I think why some of it gave me chills is because I feel like I'm doing that more now.
Mm, yeah. Me
You know,
too. Yeah.
I told you in my friend time I'm experiencing more joy
Hmm. Yeah.
and it feels good.
That's one thing I've
Happy.
really like I say work on it. A lot of it is not work, it's like allowing. But
Mhm.
I really was aware right at the beginning of the pandemic that I just wasn't having a lot of fun in my life. Like I was putting work, and not necessarily just like working at a job, but work type things at home as like the only thing
Mm,
that I should be doing.
yeah.
And I was relying on other people, including yourself in a good way, to create fun for me. So like if I talked to you and you were inviting me to something down in San Diego, I'd be like, oh yeah, let's put that on my calendar. But I wasn't creating, so it's like leaving it up to other people. If nobody offered me a fun thing to do for a while, which during the pandemic was kind of like always,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
you know, it's like I wouldn't have any fun, and I became really aware of that. And I was like, that's what I need to work on right now. It's like allowing more fun and being less like work towards goals focused, and
Mm,
more just like what could I fill my week with this week that would really fill me with joy.
yeah.
And that's a big part of the whole. People that have listened to the podcast regularly know that I played Dungeons and Dragons as a kid, took a 25-year break from it basically, and then during the pandemic got back into it, and now it's this huge source of just fun and joy and happiness in my life. And it doesn't necessarily have a goal, it's just something I do
For
that
the
is fun.
joy of it.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I know. And often when you've talked to me about it in friend time, um, you talk about how often you guys laugh, your
Oh yeah.
groups laugh,
Yeah.
and how much there's so much creativity and
Yeah.
imagination, but the laughter.
Yeah.
Um, I always thought because when we met, you spoke a lot of being a musician and
Mhm.
in wanting to, create a band again, and I've heard so much that from you. And so I think I just gathered that when you were a little boy and wanted to move to LA, that it was because you wanted to become a musician and have a
Oh
band. And you recently reminded me that that's not the truth. And
yeah.
tell me what your vision, your dream was when you were a little boy.
It was, I mean, I think I was 8 years old. It was 1978. And my parents took me to see. I think this was the third movie I'd ever seen. In it because all when I'm old enough that like movies were only in the movie theater
Yeah,
for the most
yeah.
part. There were some on TV, but they're mostly in the movie theater. And I went to see the original first Star Wars film, which now people call Episode 4: A New Hope, but back in the day it was just called Star Wars.
Yeah.
And it just blew me away. I mean, and I just came out of there going, I want to be a filmmaker. I want to tell stories.
Mm.
I want to move to LA and go to film school and tell stories for a living. And yeah, so that was my original dream. And I actually didn't make it to LA until I was 43 years old. Yeah, 43. But I made it eventually.
So then participating, having fun and participating in the D&D as much as
Mhm.
you have in the last year. Has
Yeah,
it been a year?
it's been way more than a year. Yeah, it's been almost two and a
Really?
half, something like that. Yeah.
Since you first started going back?
Yeah, I started playing. I mean, it was slow and gradual at first. I would just do like little one-off
One-offs?
sessions
Okay.
online
Okay.
with like one group of people. We'd get together, play for just 4 hours, and then sort of go our separate ways. Yeah,
Okay, so then has it been a full year since you started doing the groups regularly?
yeah. We had
Okay.
the group that I run on Tuesday nights in Burbank. We This week is session, so we play every Tuesday night.
Mhm.
I've never missed a week. So some of the players miss sometimes, but I've never
Yeah.
missed.
Yeah.
And we just had session 78, so it's a
Oh,
year and 20 weeks or something like that. Yeah,
yeah. Okay, so like 4 months.
yeah.
Um, so then in that, it's similar to filmmaking, correct? Because you're telling stories.
Well, that's
You're
it's funny
creating
because
stories where
I I never described my childhood dream the way I just described it, which is I wanted to move to LA and tell stories. I always say, well, I want to move to LA and make movies, but that's what filmmaking is you're telling stories.
yeah.
And yeah, that's what we do in D&D. We tell stories together. And I've just uh, we're not sure
Bravo.
we're not sure how this is going to pan out, but a
And
lot of
sorry if that was too loud for you listeners. My apologies.
there's a lot of D&D groups that either record their sessions of playing and put it on YouTube, or they live stream it. And so I talked to my group, my Tuesday night group, about doing that, and everybody was all into it. And there's a woman who a lot of us know through the Geeky Teas and Games gaming store that we met at. She works there as one of the salespeople, and she has a D&D group, and she's been live streaming her game every Friday night for a long time. So I've gotten in touch with her, and she apparently she and her partner set up a studio in their LA apartment to film the live stream. And so we've made an appointment to have coffee and talk about, like, her experience of what she's gone through. And so we literally may be telling
Ooh.
stories,
Ooh.
not on film, but on live
Ooh.
video.
This is very similar.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Mm-mm-mm. See, and I think that goes back to what we were speaking about in our last week's episode about letting go of the how.
Yeah.
And then also that when we ask, it is given and it's energetically being held for us. And we
Yeah.
never know when and how it's
Yep.
going to materialize and the essence of it. Because
Yep.
sometimes I think I want it to look this way. It
Yep.
doesn't look that way, but it's just as delicious.
Yeah.
And it's the essence of.
Yeah. The one thing you reminded me something of really important that has already happened with the live streaming thing for the game, which is I had the idea for quite a while and I didn't tell anybody about it. And what I was doing in my head was just like, well, how could we do it? Oh, I don't know. Well, then I guess I shouldn't really ask anybody yet. And then it'd be like, oh, I really want to do it. Well, how would we do it? I don't know where we would do it. I don't know how to. I've never live streamed anything other than just this, like something like this. So how would we do a group in a big room or whatever? And like, oh, then I can't talk to people about it yet. And what I finally caught was like, oh, I'm stopping the universe's process of being able to bring the cooperative components because I'm letting my own doubt just not even not take action, not even tell anybody. And I was like, and I just had this awareness. You talked in last week's episode about how you're now having this experience where you have your old thoughts in a situation, but then you kind of they're not dominant anymore, and your new thoughts, you know, about believing in the art of allowing are the dominant. And that's what I kind of had in this one moment. I was like, oh, I just need to start talking about it to people, and that
Oh,
and that opens the doors, you know.
oh,
And
oof.
literally, because and the other thing that's a little ridiculous, this is like, how was Collin ridiculous about this? Is that I have 8 players. We all live in Los Angeles. It's like I don't. I know some of their jobs. I don't know all of them, but I mean, they're all in some sort of creative field, and it's like somebody's gonna know somebody or something. You know what I mean? Like it's LA. Like somebody's gonna know how to shoot
Yeah,
something,
yeah,
you know,
good
on
point.
video. And so I just said to my players, and it was. I love how that I now kind of know how to do it. I just opened the doors, and I didn't put any specifics on it. I just
Mhm.
said, here's what I'd like to do. How do you guys feel about it? And does anybody have any ideas on how we might do it?
Mm,
And one of my players was like, yeah, I went to film school. He's like, anything you need. Like, he's like, I've never live streamed before, but I'm down. Like, you know,
oh,
if you need help with equipment or whatever, like, I'm totally in.
mm,
And it was literally like I was reading his message when I saw something that reminded me of the coworker friend we have at Geeky Tees who live
mm,
streams. I've seen her live stream before, and I was like, wait, we know her. She live
mm,
streams. She's probably
mm,
in Burbank for Christ's
mm,
for Christ's
mm.
sakes, you know. And I was like, I should just message her again and just say, hey, you know, I really like how I wrote to her because I used to write. If I ever had an idea like that before, I used to have, again, wanting to control the hows in how I did things, which, as you always point out correctly, is resistance. You know, like if
Mm.
I'm gonna try to orchestrate, I'm gonna play the role of
Yeah.
the universe and law of attraction and try to set everything up. Like I'm gonna mess this up because it's in that is gonna be my doubt, my fears, my
And that
beliefs.
even when you were saying it, like, my
Yeah,
shoulders, I could see your shoulders,
yeah,
like, coming up towards your
yeah.
ears. It's like, "Okay, y'all, if you wanna see what resistance looks like, this is what it looks like." And then as you were
Apologies to the audio listeners.
yeah, and then as, the allowing is just like, it just, I just kind of feel this,
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, it's alright, yeah, all the
To your
time."
point, I think, you know, some of these things, it does. I mean, what I love about that video that somebody put on Instagram of Abraham is like, what it's sort of like, why aren't we talking like this more? Like, what? Because like the person that she's
And
saying this
it's cool because we are right now.
right,
And we
the
did last
person who's
week.
like questioning her, you know, like, so when people say, what are you doing? You know, things that please me. Towards what end? Pleasure. But really, what are you working on? Having a good time. It's like part of what I get out of that is the fictional person asking the questions there
Mhm.
is really like trying to sow doubt and cast like you need to justify yourself somehow, and like
Or
being happy isn't enough, you know.
or it's that whole thing, we have to be working towards an end.
Yeah,
Like I have to be working towards a goal,
right.
or I have to
It is not about my feelings,
I
it's
have to
about,
work hard, or I have to work
yeah,
a lot, or I have to be
yeah,
working towards something, blah, 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 blah.
yeah,
And that's where, you bring it up a lot in the US. I think we do it more here than, probably in
yeah,
other countries where we get a lot of esteem
yeah,
from what we do.
from being busy.
Yeah.
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 I heard something really good. I don't remember where I heard it, but like about America's obsession with being busy. Like that's a like a badge of honor. Like if you're at your job at your company or you're at a party or something, it's a, you know, how are things going for you? Like, oh, so busy. I have so much going on. I can barely keep up with it. It's like that's
Oh,
our
our
badge of like
worth, our
I'm
worth and our
important. I'm
value.
worth something. I matter. You know,
Ugh.
but it's all about what we're doing and like goals. It's not about like, are you happy?
Yeah.
Are
What
you enjoying your life?
how
Are
we're
you creating
being.
joy for yourself
Mhm.
and others? Like, and that's what
Yeah,
I love
because
about how she's responding in these things. Like, she's not budging from just like, oh, no, that's all I'm working on is being happy. You know, things that please me, pleasure, having a good time, living happily ever after. I was happy when I was here. You know, life is joyous. I'm joyful. You know, like that's
mm.
that other voice is like, no, but really, no, but really, no, but really,
Yeah,
really.
yeah,
And it's like,
yeah.
no, really, that's really it. Like that's the goal. Happiness, joy, fun. You know.
Yeah, because Abraham says that a lot. It was, "Well, why do you want that thing? Because you think you will be happy. Well, then
Yeah.
be happy now, and then it'll eventually come, but you'll be happy now."
Yeah. And
Just
it's
like that.
funny too. Like, you know, I've worked in the corporate world for years, and something I sadly became aware of very quickly, and it's like a little bit of a burden, is like almost everyone in the corporate world in America, when you do the small talk, you bump into somebody in the hallway, you'd be like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" And the answer is almost always some reference to how close you are to 5 o'clock on Friday afternoon.
Mm.
It's almost like, "Oh, it's Wednesday, we're halfway through," or "Oh, Thursday, one day left," or like TGIF. Um, or like Monday, it's like, "Oh, it's a Monday." Ugh, like, "Oh, I hear you, buddy. Mondays, am I right? Oh my God. And all of that is, the context of that is, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be doing this. It doesn't bring me joy. I have to do it for money. We all get that I have to do it for money, but I don't enjoy it. And the whole reference to the weekend is, that's when I'm really going to be happy. That's why I'm talking about it. That's why I'm counting that we're 2.5 days from that, because that's when I'm going to let myself be happy. And it's like, to me, that feels really tragic. It's not that, I mean, no job or vocation is fun and happy all the time, but I feel like a lot of people, again, in America, where I'm familiar with it, are okay, like, "Oh, Monday through Friday, it's okay for me to be totally miserable doing
Mm.
something I don't enjoy, because I get the weekends, and I'll be happy then." And it's like, man, that's 5/7 of your life. That's
Or
a lot.
I really appreciate people who, they have a job, a 9 to 5, Monday through
Yeah,
Friday, and yet in their off time, they are doing what they love.
yeah, 100%.
And
Yeah,
they're there because, okay, it provides X, Y, and Z,
yeah,
and yet they, for themselves and their health and well-being and their happiness and their joy,
yeah,
they do those things that they love when
yes,
they're not at work, whether it be, after work or on the
yep,
weekends, that they have that in their life, whatever it is.
yeah.
Um, and I'm like, yes, yes, that's the way to do it. Because that's, when we're joyful, it creates more health, mind, body, and soul.
I love the studies that are coming out. I mean, whenever I read something like that, it just makes sense to me, intuitively. But I love the fact that I feel like the culture in American media, at least, is starting to, pick up on and pass the idea around of like, oh, happiness. I mean, number one, the fact that we have to defend that happiness is a good goal is kind of ridiculous, but I mean, whatever,
If
however we
that's
get there,
if that's
you
where
know,
we're at right now,
yeah,
so be
like,
it.
let's
But
let's embrace it.
and let's do, and the cool thing is, like, laughter. Like,
Yeah,
it doesn't cost me anything but my time and my searching on, like, YouTube or
yeah,
Instagram, like finding those reels or videos that make me laugh, or going to a movie that I love, or just being out in nature and walking around, moving my body and being like, I had a hummingbird. Oh my God, I felt so much joy this morning when I was walking Nibbles. And I was just like, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so happy right now. And then all of a sudden, this beautiful hummingbird came near us, and it had this red neck, and it had, like, I think a little red on its tail, and he's buzzing around, and I'm like, oh my God. And he's like checking out flowers or whatever. And it brought me so much joy. And then I had that moment where Abraham's like, you were joyful, Esther, before you saw that, dot,
mm,
dot, dot. That
yeah.
is why you saw, whatever it was, waterfall. I forget what it was. You were basking in the moment, and then and I was like, oh, I'm like, law of attraction. I was feeling good. And then I attracted that beautiful hummingbird that made me feel happier.
That reminds me of this Wayne Dyer thing from one of his PBS specials. Um, I think it was the main one that he did about law of attraction. I forget what it was called, but
I know you've tried to find it for
yeah,
me. I tried looking for it. I didn't know the title. And
I can find it after this. But he says something about, like, you don't. He's talking not necessarily about happiness, but about peace. Like experiencing peace. And he's like, you don't. And for this special, he had like a it was like a Japanese lantern kind of thing on a pedestal. It was really pretty. It was a globe that had a light in it.
mm,
It's really pretty. And he was using that as a representative of source, like however you view
awesome.
that, God, the source of all
Yeah,
things, whatever.
yeah.
And he would talk to it sometimes, and so he's doing this thing about, like, when you need peace, you don't have to go to source and be like, I need some peace. Give me some peace. I need more peace. He's like, that's not how it works. Like, you are peace. Like you have peace within you.
Mm.
It's not like what external thing or person do I have to go to get it from them. It's just like, how do I find it within myself? Now that can be go to somebody that you have fun with,
Right.
helps you unlock the joy that's already within you, but they're not like giving you joy and happiness.
Yeah.
They're allowing you to feel the joy and happiness that's just available to you at all times, pretty much.
Right.
But I love how he's like, give me some peace. I need some peace. You know, it's like, that is not the approach.
Well, I love that you said that because, and that wasn't what I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to say something about what he said about believing is seeing. But
Oh yeah, yeah.
I recently started saying that I help women connect to their innate power. And I think, it's
Yeah,
not
that's
this
awesome.
thing that we're, looking outside of ourselves. It's like, no, delving within. It's all within us. Um,
I was just gonna,
cool.
I was gonna try to quickly find it here, and I'm not going to. It's like his most famous special too, but it was a lot of
On
years ago.
KPBS when they would do those
Yeah,
drives. Yeah.
I'll figure it out. Maybe I'll bring it up next episode. So, all right, great discussion.
If you find it, I can always put it in the
Down in the doodly doo,
yes.
in the YouTube description down below, in the doodly doo. Yes.
Sorry, Sarah. He said it, but he didn't actually do it. But I did. I pointed to the doodly-doo in last week's episode.
We are both so happy and grateful that you joined us today. We hope you got something great out of it. Remember, at this time in late 2023, we're posting a brand new episode for you every single Monday morning. We truly appreciate you doing whatever your platform allows you to do is support the podcast. And now we have in the doodly doo down below on YouTube our link to our Patreon, where you can go and financially support us if you're willing and able to do that. We would tremendously appreciate it. And thank you for doing that.
And the link isn't there. You can go to patreon.com and
It's
look
going to be
up.
there. It's going to be
Okay.
there by
All right,
now.
Collin.
This is,
Yes.
I think,
Collin's
3
on
weeks
it.
from today, we'll have our
Okay.
stuff together.
All right.
We'll have it
Sounds good. Okay.
But we want to wish you all a very happy and abundant week ahead. And we look forward to you joining us again next week on the next episode of Co-Creation Station. Bye, everybody.
Bye.